Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Da Silva. Welcome to the Older Adult Oral Video presentation. For this project, I interviewed my grandmother, who is a Sicilian American woman who is 89 years old. She is currently living in right outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I chose to focus on the seventh stage of Erikson's psychosocial development theory, which is generativity versus stagnation. This stage encompasses ages 40 to 65. In our textbook, Human Behavior in the Social Environment, Anissa T. Rogers defines the stage as follows. Adults are involved in investing in their work, families, communities, and future generations. They begin to look past their own lives to the well-being of those around them. Adults who are unable to do this never move past investing in themselves and are self-absorbed. They become stagnated and are unable to be productive for the sake of others. I chose this stage because my grandmother identified this time in her life as a very crucial time where she experienced a lot of loss and kind of a sense of a loss of identity in herself. She said that this was a very life-changing time for her because of the many events that she experienced and the losses that she experienced. So when she was 46, she lost her spouse and the father of her 4 children. The same year, she lost her father. Her oldest child left for college. She found herself in the role of a single mother, and she returned to work after being out of the workforce for roughly 30 years. She identified losing her spouse, becoming a single mother, and returning to work as probably the most challenging things that she went through. She did talk a lot about how returning to work after such a long time made her feel productive and like she was contributing to society. And it was also a good distraction for her at this time. She, because of losing her husband, she had to take on a new role of, caretaker and provider for the household, financially, physically. So she expressed that she lost a sense of the person that she felt she was before her husband passed away. She talked a lot about how she felt unable to enjoy life and that she had to be highly focused and take things very seriously because she just felt that the burden of providing everything for her and her 4 children was placed upon her. In an article entitled Older Adult Playfulness, the authors write, playful older adults are psychologically upbeat. They are happy, optimistic, cheerful, joyful, positive, relaxed, and enthusiastic individuals. In this article, they talk a lot about the importance of being playful during young adulthood and how that can have an impact on what they call successful aging in old age. My grandmother, like I mentioned, is now 89, and she feels that because of the many losses she experienced during this stage in her life, it has negatively affected her in the stage that she's in now, because she felt she wasn't able to, like I said, enjoy her life at this time. So when her husband fell ill when he was around 44 to 45 years old, as I mentioned previously, she then found herself with many new responsibilities. And then eventually, when he passed away at age 46, was when she had to go back to work. She had to then balance being a single mother and the sole provider for the household, which placed a lot of stress on her. She discussed that during this time, she developed depression, which also gave her a sense of loss of who she was and just kind of a lack of enjoyment in life. So she, despite all of these things that she went through, she, had to find ways through them because she had a family to care for and she had to care for herself. So these are some of the things that she identified that she really placed a strong emphasis on that got her through these times. So she lived in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania during this time, and she was able to access public transportation. She really took advantage of all the resources that were within the city. She found ample work opportunities as there are a lot of different businesses locally. She is Sicilian American. Her parents came here from Sicily. So within that culture, there's just a strong emphasis on family and the importance of family and caring for family. So she did get support from them during this time. However, they didn't really believe in depression, for lack of better words. So they kind of told her to just ignore it and that it wasn't a big deal and that kind of, pick yourself up by your bootstraps kind of mentality, which she really struggled with. And she identified that as a challenge because she second guessed herself a lot because of the messages she was being given from her family. She came from a very spiritual family. They were Roman Catholic, and she really put a lot of emphasis on the importance of her religion and getting support from her church family during this time. My grandmother did not go to college, so she did experience some difficulty in regards to finding stable employment because of this, and she identified that this did lead her to feel inadequate, inferior, and that she wasn't able to get as good of a job as she would have liked to support her family. She was able to adapt well to this new role that she was placed in. She felt the need to take on both a motherly and a fatherly role after her husband passed away. And while she cited this as being very incredibly difficult for her, she was able to adapt and move within this role to support her children. I also, in addition to looking at this from a psychosocial development lens, I also wanted to look at it from a family systems theory lens. My grandmother's parents immigrated from Sicily to the United States, Philadelphia specifically. Her first language, she was born in Philadelphia, but her first language was Sicilian. She spoke only Sicilian at home. And when she went to kindergarten, she did not know any English, even though she was put in English-speaking school. She was bullied severely because of this, and she developed a sense of inferiority at a very young age that caused her to be very self-conscious and also kind of push her culture away a little bit. She did not want to speak Sicilian at home any longer. And this was definitely a point of contention with her parents. Her parents didn't really understand why she didn't want to speak the language anymore, and they felt as though she was placing the importance on American culture as opposed to her native culture. My grandmother is the oldest of 8 children, and she often was the caretaker for them, which led her to put her siblings first and kind of put herself last. She has seen all of her siblings except for one pass away, and this has really been a challenge for her. And she also cited this as affecting her mentality in her older age. She experienced some emotional abuse from her father, and this has really shaped her view of herself and her kind of lack of self-worth and self-confidence. Although she has always been able to get through any situation she's been placed in, she can be very self-deprecating and kind of second guesses herself a lot because of the emotional abuse that she endured from her father. So here we have our theory limitations. There are several limitations that I feel are applicable to Erikson's theory. I chose to focus on these 3 because I feel that they resonate with me the most. So the first one is that Erikson's theory does not consider the changing of societal and economic conditions and how they can affect someone's developmental process. Not everyone develops along the same trajectory, and his theory is difficult to measure and evaluate due to subjectivity. So a lot of people, have different definitions of things. For example, in the textbook, Rogers writes, practitioners and clients may have different interpretations of constructs such as integrity or inferiority, making a common definition of them difficult. So there's no set of definitions that everyone is using to evaluate this theory. So it's very subjective, which can just kind of lead to conclusivity. And as well as not everyone develops the same way. And Erikson writes a lot about how if people do not meet these certain objectives that he outlines in each stage, then they won't develop certain things, certain characteristics that are necessary to navigate through life with. These are my references. You can see listed here.